I'm Raina Gilead, and this is episode 15 of the Luster Leadership Series. This series explores AEC industry trends, diversity, equity, and inclusion, while highlighting the voices and leaders of the industry. Now, today, I have the honor of interviewing someone very important to my life, to giving me life, as well as someone who's very close to Luster and the company. This is my mother, Dr. Laura Luster. Now, Dr. Luster has a PhD in education from Stanford University. She has served as a community engagement advisor on the 2022 Caltrans Disparity Study and helped to facilitate public meetings, engage stakeholders, collect verbal testimony, and analyze qualitative information. She possesses more than 26 years of experience in designing, administering, and evaluating policies and programs aimed at augmenting business, educational, and employment opportunities for people of color, women, and economically disadvantaged individuals. She is also an expert in community engagement and leads business outreach services aimed at promoting the participation of disadvantaged businesses on government projects. She is frequently asked to complete an analysis and prepare white papers and reports. Dr. Luster has developed policy and managed business outreach and technical assistance programs for various organizations, including BART and San Jose Community College District. Dr. Luster has also helped public agencies with workforce research, stakeholder involvement activities, and devised professional development plans. So once again, thank you so much for joining us and being here today. So weird to call you Dr. Luster, but Laura Luster, my mother. Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning. So we're just going to jump right into it. Obviously I know you, but there are some things that I am not as familiar with in terms of specifics about your work or your experience. So I'm looking forward to having this conversation for the series, but also to, learn some things about you myself. So I'm going to jump into my first question, which is, can you describe an experience that influenced or informed your work over the years?
Well, I think that one experience that I had, and I think it's something that was not only important to me personally, but also to my entire generation, because now I'm several generations back to what's going on now. And during the late 60s, early 70s, it was a real time of activism. It was a time of great hope for social change. It was also a time when African-American students were finally able to attend, although in very small numbers, some of the state universities, the public universities. And so my experience as being one of these students at the University of California, you can imagine, or you really can imagine, that in those days, so in 1968, there were 17 of us that were allowed to enter the University of California, Santa Cruz. And for Latino, then called Chicano students, there were fewer. So this was California's grand experiment, even though, again, many of us, of course, had been qualified for a great deal of time, but finally the university mustered enough conscience to be able to allow its citizens to actually attend its universities. So that experience was very important because we really developed, coming out of really the civil rights movement, the Vietnam anti-war movement, a great sense of community, obligation, and consciousness. We knew that we were being presented an opportunity that was important, not just, again, to us individually, but from all of the communities from which we had, from where we had come from and from where we had grown. And so I think that notion of understanding that what you're doing is something greater than just what you're doing for yourself has informed, or it greatly influenced me. Also, the notion that you have an obligation to give back to your community. You have an obligation to fight for social justice, to create opportunities for other people, the people who are coming behind you. And so it greatly influenced me. And I'm really grateful to the other students that I attended university with. And I mean, we had, maybe one or two faculty of color at that time. So I'm very grateful to all of them.
Yeah. Well, first, I mean, you've said so many things in this, but one of the things that it makes me think about, only because we, are in Black History Month, there's, quotes that we know that are super famous, but one that I always like from Martin Luther King is the time is always right to do what is right. And so, that concept of, again, being a part of something, being a part of change, being a part of really like also changing people's perspectives of what is possible, even though you, of course, know this is always possible, but it kind of also reminds me of today, making this relevant to today. And even though I'm a different generation, but there's also a whole other generation that's coming behind me. And I have to say that it is your generation that really helped to influence mine and the ones prior who are now doing a lot of different work within inclusion and diversity. That really is what you paved the way for. So just people understanding that, these fights have been fought for a really long time, and sort of understanding that I think sometimes it is those moments where you say, wow, I was able to be a part of this and help make a difference. And that influences what you do then in your life. Whether that's in your job and career, but also just in your life with your family, life with, how you navigate the world and everything. Makes sense. So I'm going to jump to another question, which is, where do you believe you've made a contribution? I mean, obviously, I'm already naming this. You just mentioned all this and also just through your bio, but sometimes we can do, a whole bunch of things, and some people think, oh, this was the greatest thing that you did or this, but you may say, well, actually, for me, this is the contribution that I was attempting to make. And this is what stands out to me about my work or my contribution. So where do you believe you've made a contribution?
Well, hopefully when I was a teacher, I helped people learn. I think I hope that I've helped people learn how to read.
Including me.
So I'm a firm believer in basic literacy. So I think, anyone who's been a teacher, you always hope that whatever you were doing did make a difference to the individuals that you were working with, and that they benefited from, whatever it is that you were able to think up to help them learn. So I'm hoping that that was a real contribution. I tell people a lot of the work that I did when I was in business, I always tell people, I tell my brother all the time, it went in the garbage. So I don't know, I think that you're out there fighting the good fight, and you hope that something sticks. I was very pleased that after, let's say, participating in a number of initiatives in San Francisco, that just kind of fizzled out and went nowhere, that Mayor Newsom, now Governor Newsom, and his staff, that they did embrace the concept of City Build. So right. I'm very happy, because that influenced legislation, being able to be the person asked to put down on paper the concept. It was, right. Of course, many people contributed to it. And then to be able to actually see a program developed, and to be able to work with that, and work with really fine people who are able to take, again, concept and turn it into reality. That was a real privilege. And then to see people get training and get jobs and make money and their lives change. So I am very grateful, again, for the opportunity to have been San Francisco City Build consultant. And I'm also grateful to the opportunity to work with the Dominican Sisters when I was at family school, to work with women and children who were attempting to make changes in their lives. And they did make changes. And I think that we tried to create an atmosphere in which, even though nothing in the society changed, that people were able to make a little bit of personal progress and,
Right.
and feel better about themselves and do, again, make progress for themselves and their children and their families.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I just try to work with, like to work with young people, young women in particular, to try to help them navigate this crazy world. And to, again, how do we remain centered, keep focused, get educated? I am a very firm believer in being educated. So I like to try to help young women, further their education wherever they are. They could
Right.
be, wherever they are. Yeah.
Well, I mean, this sort of very easily goes into the next question because, I mean, I'm definitely someone who benefited from being able to see you and do the work that you do and push for things that, were important to you. And so, and I've seen you mentor people as well. And so I would love to know, like, what advice would you give a young woman looking to start their career, their business journey, maybe even start their own business, or continue, sort of in the path that you took? Just in general, what advice would you give a young woman today looking to start on their career path?
Yeah. Well, it's so funny that you say career path, because that's like, everybody talks about career path nowadays. But just like you had asked the generation previous to mine, my parents' generation, well, why did you do this? And why did you do that? And I said, because I could. In other words,
Right.
that was the only opportunity that was available to me. So I took it. And I just,
Right.
I did my best within the limitations that I found myself, confronted with. And
Yeah.
so again, I think that's maybe something that's different. It's changing slowly over generations, is that, I mean, I myself never considered too much of a career path. Mine is just a evolutionary kind of bumbling along, quite frankly. So I would, because I think one of the things that was different is that, many of the women in my generation, we mentored ourselves. There was the opportunities just began to open up to a certain careers just with my generation that were not available to people in the previous generation. They didn't exist. The doors were all closed. So I think that for women nowadays, it's first of all recognizing that there are a lot more doors that are open, but the challenges still very much exist. And what's most important is that you have to prepare yourself. In other words, it's all about what you bring to whatever situation. You have to prepare yourself mentally, physically, I believe you need to be educated, but you need to know things. In other words, not just go to school, you really do need to know how to write. You need to embrace your own knowledge and your own sense of efficacy and self-confidence, because careers nowadays, they might last only 5 years. They might last 10, unless you're somebody who just goes into something specific. But even people who want to be medical doctors, they change their careers even after they've gone to medical school and practiced for 10 years. Many people are changing. So I think it's really about spending time to determine what is important to you, what do you want? How much does it cost? And are you willing to pay the price? I think it's also important nowadays to you can find mentors, to try to find someone to work with, or who'll pay attention to you and give back to you a little bit to help you figure out and make decisions. There's these key decision points that we tend to come to in our lives. And if you can have the benefit of someone who has, lived a little longer, experienced a little more, just has a broader scope than, we're able to have, then that can really be beneficial, even though, again, you have to make your own decisions. But so I'm more not so much do what other people have done or choose. I mean, if you're lucky enough to know what you want to do and you can choose a career, great. But I think it really begins with self-preparation, self-knowledge, self-confidence, so that you can keep moving fluidly and being flexible and responding to the changing conditions, because conditions are changing, and we've seen that, and they will continue to change. So.
Yeah, absolutely. As the world continues to change, hopefully in the right direction, but change nonetheless. It's going to be a direction of some sort anyway.
Yeah, I think, you have to know, I think it's a wonderful thing. I mean, I definitely believe you need to get educated. You also need to work hard, because you need to know what it feels like to accomplish something for yourself. Those are all the things that, those are all the internal things that really, to me, carry people through. Yes, it's not the external things.
Right. True. Ooh, yay. Yay, Mom. I know I'm over there reading Dr. Lester, but I'm like, Mom. Well, okay. The last thing I really just want to ask, it's sort of just open. Really, if there's anything else that you want to end on or just say or what have you, the floor is yours. I mean, it's been yours, but if there's anything you want to kind of end on.
Well, I do think it's important, or it has been important too. You have to be brave. That's another thing, is that people have to be willing to get out of their comfort zones, wherever that happens, and try things that are different, meet people that are different. They have that produces I think it produces a more interesting life, for sure, perhaps more fulfilling. And it builds the kind of confidence that allows people, again, to respond to changing conditions. If you lose a job, if you're willing to, again, get out of comfort zone, learn something new, you know how you learn, you'll be able to make a successful transition. So I think that's something that's important. Yeah.
I think that's great. And actually, I was going to say, but you already said it, was learning something new, or just continuing to learn. Not having this idea that like, oh, well, now, I'm done learning, or I'm out of school, or that to continue to be, well, I think this is something you instilled in me, is to continue to be a student of life. There is so much to learn. And so it's going back to your ebb and flow and staying flexible and knowing that you don't know everything, and that's okay.
Yeah.
You keep learning.
Yeah. And I think that it's also okay to fail. That's, people say it, that you learn more from your failures than you do from your successes. And that is true, but it's very hard to accept. But if you can, go ahead, fail, as people say, everybody's going to fall down. It's not about how you fall down, it's about how you get back up. And because everyone is going to have setbacks, and you have to be, if you want to be successful, however you define that, you do have to be able to get back up. You do have to be able to, to continue to move forward.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Very true.
Yeah. So I think you need, again, I think one needs a good, if you can get a mentor, great. You can create a group of supportive people whether they're your family, your coworkers, your friends. It is about keeping people around you who are positive, and you staying positive as well.
Yeah. Positive and supportive.
Yes, you
Yeah.
can do anything with that.
You can,
Yes,
and
yeah.
some kind of support. I mean, you know, again, you and I, we have done that both for each other and for other people. Have a collective group of women get together and say, okay, here's what I need some assistance with. And sometimes it's just, I just need somebody to listen, or I need you to be here while I put together my to-do list of the things I need to do, whatever that support is, but giving that. Well, you've been very supportive today to me and to the Lester Leadership Series for being here. I was so looking forward to this, and I really appreciate you being here. We all are very inspired and happy. You know, me personally, of course, I'm more biased, but to have you in my life as my mother. So thank you so much for being here with us and sharing your expertise.
All right. Well, I hope it was useful. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Take care.
Yeah.